Yeah, a lot of today's morning meeting was another power play session because we haven't hit on it with everybody yet. So this morning, these two teams now, everybody will get the gist of what Mark wants to do on his power play. So that was one thing. We took 3 areas last night and gave them really short clips or examples of how to handle certain situations, maybe a little better. But totally different games tonight, I guess, is the way we've tried to prepare them for. Like, we know the way Seattle plays. They're a very fast team. Both teams, the one they're sending here and the one they're keeping in Seattle, are teams that will play with pace, and they have different veterans throughout their lineup, so it'll be a totally different game tonight than what we saw last night.
I promised to only ask this once this season.
Okay.
Which city are you coaching in tonight?
I'm going to stay here tonight, yeah. Kale and Mark and Joe will be going to Seattle. Yeah.
Jonathan had 2 goals last night, and guys have remarked that he's got maybe a better shot than people realize. Do you want him to shoot a little more this season and use that shot?
I think you always do when there's a chance for him to shoot. He is a pass-first guy, and he would probably tell you that his whole life he's been told to shoot more, I'm guessing, is probably his reaction to that. But getting him to understand that there's a time and a place to pass and there's a time and a place to shoot, I think, is important. And the one that steps out in my head was last year in LA in overtime. We want you to shoot in that situation. It's just ingrained in him that he's a pass-first guy. And because of that, I think the guys that he plays with, a little bit of the onus has to go on them as well, that they always have to make sure they're ready, because even in situations where you're not expecting a pass, you should be thinking this thing's coming, because that's just the way he thinks and processes the game. So when he has opportunity to shoot, we want him to shoot. There's no doubt about it, because you see the type of shot that he does have. So it's just getting him to kind of find that balance where the right decision is to shoot, and maybe the next time you could try to pass. So it's getting him to understand the balance.
How much harder is he to defend, knowing his passing abilities? When he shows that willingness to shoot, how much does that, do you think, keep opponents off?
A lot. I mean, I think it's sometimes you look at certain players, and a lot of D-men are smart. Chris Tanev's maybe the best defenseman in the league, or one of them. And he knows tendencies of certain players, so he'll always play pass against certain guys. And it makes him have to make a few different reads if he has a guy that he's also a shot threat. So then Chris has to think about where his body may go in those situations, because he has to also prepare to block a shot instead of just a pass. So it does come into play, and it'll force defenders to force him a little bit differently.
He had good news, or encouraging news yesterday about Dennis Gilbert after the game, but everything's still...
Yeah, he's in the room this morning, as I mentioned. He won't be on the ice for the next few days, but it wasn't pretty seeing him go in like that, but he's going to be fine.
Guy, when you see a guy stay down like that, and it's a guy like Dennis Gilbert, I assume there's a little bit of worry.
Yeah, for sure. But as I mentioned, he's good. He'll be back.
Can you talk a little bit about, the goalie competition that it doesn't start tonight, but with Wolf and net? Everyone's curious to see what his success during preseason or not will mean moving forward.
Yeah, like anything, you want competition, and that's for Jacob, that's for Vladdy, it's for Dustin, and even Oscar last night when he came in. He did a very good job coming into the game. I think having a younger guy that's, let's be honest, is ready to play, whether or not he starts up in the NHL or however that shakes out, or if he plays another year in the minors, people know that he's a really good goaltender, so he's going to get opportunity to try to win a spot, and you have to go at it that way. Now, he's got a tall task in front of him for sure, because the guys that we have, I think, are both capable of being starters. We know Jacob is. I think Vladdy is as well. So it's a tall task, no doubt, but he's at the level now where what more does he have to prove at the American League level? He has to show it here. So giving him exhibition games, giving him a chance to play not just a period or two, he's going to play games, and that's what we're looking for out of him, and then see what he can do at this level. As we get into these, the one thing I will say about Wolfie, last year I thought he did an awesome job in the game that he came in, but I would also say that was an American Hockey League team that we saw when he played. So once he gets further and further into the exhibition season, you're going to get better shooters. Like some of the guys that are coming here tonight, if they get chances to shoot a puck, they're dangerous, like really dangerous. So this will be a great test for him, and I'm expecting him to rise to that challenge.
He told us last week he wants to play like that. He said it doesn't matter if it's in the AHL or the NHL. Playing games is a priority for him. Assumes the same for you, but where is that balance?
The balance is playing. So we have three guys. It really is the way I look at it, and I shouldn't say three when you have a guy that's capable like Oscar is as well. So if our guys are going really well here, which is our expectation, he may have to play a lot of games in the American Hockey League, which is fine. It's not going to hurt him. You talk about goaltenders, defensemen, they need a little bit more time to mature before they get thrown into the fire. So it's not a bad thing. And it's one of the positions that we feel we have a ton of depth in, and we feel really fortunate in that category. And we're going to get him as many games as we can possibly get him, whether it's in the American League or some games up here.
How would you kind of assess the goalie room? Like how do those guys kind of feed off each other, or the dynamic between them, knowing that there is this sort of competition?
They're all really good with each other. I mean, Jacob has that way about him where he pulls for Vladdy, and I think because Vladdy has learned from Jacob, they are the same way with the other two guys. So it's neat to see. There's competition, but they support each other, and that's really what you want from your group.
Ryan, since Lanny's here, what does it mean to coaches and to players to have former Flames like Lanny around the team? What can coaches and players learn from guys who have won in this city and who are willing to kind of give back at this stage?
Yeah, Peter and I were talking about that when we were walking down here. Lanny walked into our room and everybody stops. Everybody knows who Lanny McDonald is, and we talk a lot about the Flames way and how the style that we want to play. He was like one of the reasons why we want to play that way. And he's the one guy that's won here, really. So it's kind of neat to see how the players react, whether it's a younger player, whether it's a member of our staff, whether it's me. I find it really cool when Lanny's around and the other alumni members are around, because it's really what we're all about and why we're here.
And looking more big picture than what we saw last night, when Nazem Kadri is sort of going at his best, what does he bring or add to this group?
Naz is competitive, and he's got a skill set that is at a really high level. And I think when he is on and when he's really focused on his style of play, he's a really hard guy to play against because of that. So Naz has the ability to run you over when you're not expecting him to. He gets mad a lot. Like, he's one of the guys that hates to lose. He really hates to lose. So when he's really right and when he's playing the way Naz can play at his very best, the skill set is, like we saw last night, some of the plays that he was able to make and the goals he was able to score, that's there for us. But he also raises our competitive level and brings some edge to our team. So you look at Naz as maybe being a smaller player compared to today's NHL standards, but he's not smaller in the way he competes and is not afraid to get his nose in the mix.
Does he seem physically different? Like, we asked Blake Coleman about coming back after winning a cup and that long playoff run, and he just says it's so hard to get your body ready, and Kadri sort of alluded to that without making excuses at all for last year, but does he seem a little bit, just sort of have a little bit more jump?
Oh, I think he does for sure. But even like I don't want to keep talking about last year, but he started really well, and I think that really plays into it. Those guys go through a grind. I mean, Lanny will tell you how hard it is, and we fly charters. It's a grind for those guys, for how long they have to go, how hard they have to play, the operation that he went through, all that stuff comes into play. And then there's the mental letdown as well. Like, it's not quite the same anymore. It matters. And I think by having a summer off, a summer to actually get himself back into the gym, to get himself working again, to get the fire back into him again, I think is a really good thing for him.
I think it's safe to say the Flames missed some of Matthew Tkachuk's intangibles last year, how he could get under the skin of his opponent. Do you see some of those qualities in Nazem as well?
Yeah, totally different player, but he can be a pest for sure. Like, people come to watch Naz play because he's a little bit unpredictable at times.